So, Donald Trump has been found guilty on all 34 counts. However, unfortunately, the reality is that if you are a conservative, you really don't have any political media that has any respect for you whatsoever. I mean, the right wing media ecosystem is just the most dishonest. I mean, American media in general is very dishonest, but conservative media is the bottom of the barrel. So the reality is you have a group of savages like Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder. I mean, the list goes on. Lunatics, sycophants, but generally very unpatriotic people who have no respect for conservatives whatsoever and will never level with you and speak honestly and with any kind of integrity. They will just say whatever it takes to gas you up and get the most engagement so they can get the most money. And then unfortunately, things are so divided that you're not going to get anyone on the left that's going to talk to you or pay attention to you. They're too busy looking for the next Trump rally to show how dumb Trump supporters are. Um, so I'm going to be the one to speak with you respectfully and truthfully, since no one else will. Even even if you still like Trump, right? Maybe you wouldn't vote for him. Maybe you voted for him before, but maybe you wouldn't vote for him again, but you still like him or like something about him or have some level of respect for him. Even if that's the case, that does not mean that you also need to be insane about it, right? You can like Trump for whatever reason and to whatever level, but you don't have to also be insane. The left will say simply liking Trump alone is insane as it is, but the reality is liking Trump does not force you to be a victim of the scammers in right-wing media and just let them manipulate you with nonsense. So the rhetoric is going to be that this is Joe Biden politicizing the DOJ to go after his opponents, right? But if you pay attention to the people who are using this rhetoric for clicks and to make money at the expense of the nation, you will notice that they will just say these sort of vague statements, right? They won't explain what they mean exactly. Like, what do you mean by politicizing the DOJ to go after your opponents? Like, what does that mean? I mean, we understand fundamentally what that means, but I mean, can we follow this down to its conclusion and quantify what that really means? So, Joe Biden, very unpopular. The polls are looking atrocious for him. Trump is doing very well, and he's a serious threat to Joe Biden. So, that being the case, we could see that Democrats might want to find a way out of this, find a way that they can win. Now, let me tell it, I recognize that the Democrats win even when they don't win, meaning if Biden loses the next election, the Democrats really win, especially if they lose more power in Congress, because when they are the minority, they get to sit on their hands and they have the best excuse ever that they don't have any power and you need to vote for more of them. So they win even when they supposedly lose, right? The key Democrats, they ain't going anywhere, right? But let's put that aside. We could see logically the Democrats might want, or at least Joe Biden might want, a strategy to win the election. Things are looking bad. They might need something to help them. But don't just look at this and say that they're doing this trying to beat their opponents. Go through the full process and see what this actually means. So, number one, Trump being convicted helps Trump, right? He's going to get his base even more energized. Some people who were maybe not going to vote are now going to vote just because of like a fighting back and they're not coming after me, they're coming after you and I'm standing in the way. Like they believe in that kind of rhetoric, right? So that's going to motivate some people on the margins who weren't going to vote to come out to vote. So this helps Trump. It's the idea that they're doing this to interfere with the election, doing something that helps Trump when things are really looking bad, doesn't really follow. Now, if you make a valid argument or a rebuttal to that and you say the Democrats are dumb and they don't realize this is going to help Trump, even though we've already seen that the more they go after him or the more that he's gone after, the more it's helped him, right? So we've seen in the polls that there's an inverse response. The more that Trump gets persecuted, the better it is for him. So you're suggesting that the Democrats are so dumb that even though they're aware that this kind of strategy wouldn't help Trump, somehow they still think that it will help them. Like that's what you. And again, you have to don't just look at they're trying to weaponize. Actually think about what that actually means and see if it makes any sense, right? So they already see that this stuff doesn't work, but you're suggesting that they're doing it anyway for some reason. Okay, all right. Even if I give you that, and that's a valid rebuttal. Even if I give you that, how does this actually help them, right? Um, the people who are going to vote for Biden, like they're going to vote for Biden anyway. This is not like even more people are going to vote for Biden now because Trump got he's a felon now, so now we definitely have to go vote for Biden. Like that's not going to happen, right? So where does the benefit come from? And if this is a Democrat thing and they're weaponizing whatever, you've got to demonstrate how they're benefiting from this, or how they could perceive that they could get a benefit from this. The other thing is, so him being convicted in terms of reputation damage doesn't work because again, it's an inverse relationship in the conservative world for whatever reason. The more he gets convicted, the more he gets charged, the more of this stuff that goes on, the more they're gonna like him. So it's not helping on that side. It's not gonna help on the Democrat side. Democrat voters aren't gonna vote more. So how does this help them again? I mean, does it really make sense to go through all of this and the risk of? Because can you imagine? Like Trump has a good chance of winning, and if he wins, and they're doing some shady stuff, I mean, he can go after them. They're risking their freedom for some kind of boost for Biden or a diminishing of Trump's chances that I can't even articulate. Can you articulate that? I don't know. I don't see how it works. The other thing is there's the idea of they want to lock him up, right? So in theory, it's like, okay, Like look at with Putin, right? Somebody was trying to run against him, and somehow they end up in prison. Okay, but thankfully this is not Russia, right? So, and it's not even about this not being Russia. Let me leave that alone. Let's just be real. Number one, Trump is a mega elite, very powerful person. Um, he has a lot of very powerful people that support him in the GOP and billionaires. Um, the elites are not trying to put another elite in prison. It can happen, but they're not really looking to do that. So the idea that they're going to lock him up is just not very likely. But even if you deny that and you say I'm wrong and you say they are going to lock him up, it's a weaponized DOJ and this is a corrupt thing, whatever. Okay, let me give you that. Right? Again, notice the process. You got to actually follow the process. Don't just listen to talking points from the right wing media people that are making millions of dollars by gassing you up. Right? Actually think for yourself independently and follow things down the line to see the actual outcome, not just surface level thinking of like, oh, they're just going after their opponent. Okay, what does that actually mean? How does this actually work in their favor? So even if you believe, I mean, I don't think that makes any sense that they would do that, but let's just say you believe that they're really going to lock him up. Um, he would not be in prison before the election, right? This, any kind of jail time, when you consider appeals and how long the process works, even if they did want to put him in prison, they can't do it until the election. However, they did have an opportunity to put him in jail, and yet they didn't. So again, if you believe that this whole thing's about putting him in jail, you got to ask yourself the realistic way of putting him in jail in terms of the conviction. They can't do it in time for the election. And if he wins the election, which has a good chance of winning, he'll just pardon himself. So again, how does this help the Democrats? How is this Joe Biden going after Trump and all this kind of stuff? How is he gonna stop Trump from winning by locking him up in prison after the election? Makes no sense. Ben Shapiro is not gonna tell you this. He's not gonna tell you that jail time wouldn't happen before the election. He's not gonna mention that, right? These right-wing media channels, they're not going to tell you the truth of that. They're going to make you think of this unrealistic scenario where somehow he's in jail prior to the election. So now, either he can't campaign or somehow there's some logistical issue of a guy in prison winning the election, whatever it is. Like, that's not going to happen. So again, what is the point of this idea that Biden's trying to stop his opponent? This doesn't stop Trump. Again, we established that this helps Trump in terms of getting more votes, getting his base more energized. It doesn't help on the Democrat side. Democrat voters are not going to vote more because he's been convicted. He's not going to be able to be in jail before the election. So not even that. So the reputation damage is beneficial to Trump. Jail time is not a potential before the election. And then you have to look at it as, ask yourself again, how does this help Joe Biden? How does this help the Democrats? Right? How does helping Trump boost his numbers help the Democrats win? Right? Also, if you really, really stretch things, right? If you're really, really desperate to believe in the rhetoric being told to you by the millionaires on YouTube and on social media who pander to conservatives, if you're really, really desperate to try to make it some kind of reality, I don't think you can, even stretching things, you can come up with a scenario where this in any way helps Joe Biden more than, you know, a tiny amount. So the idea to orchestrate this whole thing and the case and the back and forth and the months of this and the risk of being exposed and people going to jail, because if this is an illegal case and the case wasn't real, and if they're doing some stuff that's illegal, right? If this is an unfair situation, a lot of heads can roll, right? To go through all of that and all that time for a marginal boost. I mean, there's so many other things the Democrats could do that could help them better to defeat Trump than to go through all this trouble for barely, perceivable benefit to them, right? So, and as I've been telling you guys before, notice how the conservative thought leaders have been talking about everything else but the substance of the case. If this was a bogus case, they would be focusing on how bogus the case is. I mean, even today, Ben Shapiro still is just straight up lying to his audience. I mean, what did he say? Something like, it's supposed to be a misdemeanor, and I forgot what he said, but it's just like some stupid, just really, really dishonest. And if you look at the way he was talking, you could see he's pretending to be upset. This is a travesty. That's funny because I made a joke mocking, just mocking conservative media. And in my video, I literally said some of the things that Ben Shapiro said, like literally used the word travesty. If you saw my video from earlier, I was like, this is a travesty. And then Ben Shapiro was a video talking about it's a travesty. And also he did a lot of stuff that I said, I predicted in terms of the whole acting like, this the retribution is coming. And again, if you like Trump, that's on you. But liking Trump doesn't mean you have to be gullible and allow these savage, manipulators and opportunists online to fill your brains with idiocy, right? You can like Trump and at the same time reject the nonsense, right? You can like Trump and say, listen, man, Ben Shapiro, get out of here with your bullshit. The guy looks like he was guilty. He got convicted. This is how things are supposed to work, right? They had many opportunities to put Trump in jail and they didn't. They're probably not going to put him in jail ever. Like, stop with this banana republic bullshit, right? You claim to like Trump. I like Trump as well. But there's nothing funky about this case. The case was legit. He was guilty. Now, let's move on, right? If you really like Trump, then talk about, how good Trump is and whatever. There's no need to go and spin this, right? Leave it be. He's guilty. They found him guilty. Okay, whatever. If you think he's the best president we ever had, we'll continue talking about how good he is. Continue supporting him and promoting him and saying how great he's going to do. There's no need that you have to just buy into whatever nonsense that these right-wing influencers hit you with, right? I want to live in a world, in a country where conservatives become the most allergic to conservative media and influencers. I want to live in that world. You see how the libertarians have been acting, talking about Trump, right? I want to live in a country where I see conservatives. You think liberals go after conservative media a lot? I want to see conservatives going after their own media more than anybody else, right? Because these are the guys who give the Democrats power. If you're afraid of the Democrats, then you need to go after your conservative media, because if not for these liars and frauds, the Democrats would have no hope. Look at how bad Joe Biden is doing. Can you imagine if Ben Shapiro was an honest guy? if Steven Crowder was an honest guy, if the top right-wing media folks were honest and didn't provide cover for all of these frauds. So instead of having Trump, you had a better option that would absolutely obliterate Trump. I'm sorry, obliterate Biden. If not for these clowns, you would have somebody who could destroy Joe Biden with their eyes closed. Right? But instead, these clowns are online gassing you up and playing all these games so they can buy another BMW, buy another mansion at your expense. There's no one who is more a threat to conservatism than conservative media. There's no one who's a threat to conservatives more than conservative influencers. The absolutely most dishonest and just absolute trash that we have in political media. And again, our political media in general is trash, but the bottom of the barrel is conservative media. And it's going to continue to be that way if you guys don't stand up for yourselves and say no more. Officer J, Ben Shapiro, stupid and dishonest. Right. Shapiro is deceptive. He sees what he wants. He sees what he wants to see as well. Couldn't agree with you more. Trump supporters need to hear this. Hey, man, Jock, good to see you. Yeah, man. That's all I had to say. I know, this may be, hitting out to deaf ears, I'm not really optimistic of anyone who needs to hear this actually hearing it, because unfortunately, I've dealt with it with my own father. I mean, he's very, very religious. We've had many debates about some of his ideas. And whenever we talk about these things that he has a deep emotional connection to, he operates at a level that is much below his intelligence. That's what emotions do to you. Emotions block your ability to access your critical thinking. So no matter how articulate I might be and making good points and laying it out and whatever evidence I present, none of that is really relevant if the person listening isn't able to process this information, in the part of their brain that does that analytical thinking, right? If the emotional parts of your brain is taking precedence, then it's not really about anything I can say or any evidence I can present, because it's in one ear, not the other, right? It's just like, you watch partisan media that loves to call out mainstream media, how dishonest they are. And they are dishonest. And you keep hearing that all the time. Then you could be wrong about something and CNN could correct you about it. And they could make a solid case proving that you're wrong. And you could watch it with all the evidence you need to see and yet still not get it. Why? Because again, you're emotionally connected to a certain idea, a certain belief. So no matter the evidence that CNN presents, and the other thing is what I'm bringing up is just like when you keep hearing CNN is they lie, then again, it makes it easy to in one ear out the other. So because CNN is saying it, like no matter the evidence, so your brain is just like, oh, that's CNN. It's liberal media. Liberal media don't believe nothing they say. Right. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Well, I may not be very positive in terms of, again, the ability to reach certain people, but all I can do is try. I can do my part, which is what I've done. I've put the information out there. I've tried to speak to people respectfully and try to understand their position. I've tried to, make an argument with substance. I'm not just simply saying, it's just the right-wing liars or, whatever it is. Like, like how a lot of these guys dismiss the case, right? Oh, it's a partisan this, and they won't talk about the substance. Well, I talked about the substance of my argument, right? I went through every single piece of why this idea that they want you to focus on, that this is a partisan thing, it's lawfare. I broke it down on several levels of how that is nonsense and how there's no pathway that makes that make sense, right? So I think I've done my part. Now it's up to you to figure out how to actually process what I said and not just have a knee-jerk emotional reaction. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.